Hey, beloved. Welcome back to Be with Beloved. Hope that everyone watching this is hanging in there. Remember to just try to take things one day at a time because there's a lot happening all around us and to us and, those we love, people we know. I hope that you are reminded that you are seen and loved, and that you know who the author and finisher of your life is. Even when you're at your wits' end, despite everything that's happening, you will get through this and you will come out on the other side of this. I don't know how long it will take, but only thing I can promise is, or suggest or ask, if no one has asked you this, that you keep on holding on. I think there's a song like, I think it goes like, keep on keeping on or something. I may be wrong. Don't come after me, but you get what I'm trying to say. Hold on. Keep holding on, and there will be more to come, and you will get through this. Whatever you're in the middle of right now, as hard as it may seem, you probably cannot even see a light at the end of the tunnel. I am telling you that you will get through this. You don't have to go through it by yourself. You may not feel like you have anyone that you can rely on or count on, but um, that's what the space is for, to build community with one another. The last time I left off with you guys getting to know me, the curator of the space, and I wanted to start by sharing these series of events and things that took place and what led me to be with Beloved, and without even realizing what this would turn out to be, which is still unfolding. So it's not set in stone. This is the start of something, and I believe and know that it will grow and flourish because it's not just for me, it's for us. Yeah, I didn't know a few years ago if someone would have told me this is what I'd be doing right now. I'd be like, nope, that's not true. And for those who know me, they know like I'm being obedient at this point because I'm not really or haven't been on social media like that for a while. And so if there was ever an opportunity presented itself to be on social media, my initial response or knee jerk reaction is absolutely not. So for me to be here now, it's like, okay, I'm being obedient. And so anyways, the last time I left off, I talked about I'd share my journey to divinity school. Now, I have to say that, to give context of how I was led to divinity school, I shared how I was led to divinity school, but to go in a little deeper, I had no intentions. First off, I didn't know what a divinity school was. Even now, and some people will ask in conversation, their reaction. It doesn't matter how old they are. Some of them are like, "What is a divinity school? Like, what's that?" Like, that's a thing. Instead of me saying, "Oh, it's seminary," people are familiar with seminary, but then when you say divinity school, it's like, "Huh? What is that?" So I had no desire to go back to school. And definitely, if I decided to go back to school, it would probably be for something like a year, right? Like an MBA or something, but not divinity school. So I shared in a previous video how I was led to divinity school, and that was like a series of events where, like, you can't make this up. And some people in your life right now, you may be going through something or have traversed something in your life, and things has happened to you and you're like, I can't make this up, or I couldn't even like sequence, right? Or confirmations that you may have received. You may have been led to do something, start something, produce something, and you've been second guessing and you're like, I don't know. I'm right there, right? I'm right there with you. But you've received confirmations, and it also has, and you have not only confirmations, but you have witnesses to your confirmation, and people are just kind of like, okay, this is clear as day. If you need more confirmation, I don't know what to tell you by now. So anyways, when I got to divinity school, or when I applied, I was hesitant, and I was like, "No, God, like, I have my version of how I wanna move forward in life, and that doesn't include, like, moving and starting starting new, right? A new start, a new life." I don't know how many people are watching, whoever is watching, if you ever found yourself where you've had to start over, you know? It can be hard when you're in the middle of starting over. It's easy for us to, when we have had to start over in life, and then we get to the part where everything's good and we come around those who are sharing their middle and they're like, I'm having to start over. Some of us, we tend to just dismiss it or brush it off, like, oh, it's fine, but we forget what it was like for us when we had to restart something in our life or something that transpired, and we're having to now navigate this new, whether it's something that we wanted, we desired, or it's something that just it happened to us because things just happen to people, right? And we question, why is this happening? So we tend to forget that when we were in the middle of something or going through something, how there was someone or a few people who extended that grace to us and met us where we were in that season. And then when we come over, or when we cross over, or we think that we made it to the other side, it's hard for us to understand what other people are going through or give space for other people to share what they're going through or feel exactly what it is that they're going through. I uh I say all that to say that when I was in it, realizing that, okay, I'm going to have to start anew. I'm starting over. And I felt like I was starting over again. And that feeling, I was frustrated. I was angry. I was confused. And I was kind of like, I didn't feel, I had this sense of inadequacy because of everything that was happening in my life. And I just remember questioning God, like, why do I have to go to the DMV area? Like, why do I have to go to, specifically, why do I have to attend Howard University School of Divinity? Like, there are several divinity schools or seminary. Like, there are other options right where I was before having to relocate. And I didn't understand it at the time, but that's where I was supposed to go. Right. And I will say that for me, it was a journey, as it is for everyone who um, embarks on a new chapter or just adding more to what they've on their plate, to whatever wherever they're currently dealing with, right? So for me, having to relocate and move to the DMV area and move to attend Howard University, I just remember I was confused. I was I was I was feeling, I was questioning. I was like, I don't understand. I really don't understand. I don't know why, but I'm gonna trust. Even though if it doesn't make sense, I'm going to trust. Even in my life, when there were leaps that I've had to take, I was always afraid. I was afraid of what could possibly happen on the other side, what might not happen. I was just afraid, in general. But even still, not being able to determine the outcome or the journey, I still did it. Like, I did it afraid. And some of us, our fear tend to hold us back. And I'm including myself because I know where sometimes right now my fear is holding me back, but I have to do it even though I'm afraid. I still have to do it. And I would offer, whatever you're faced with right now, or if there's something that requires you to make a decision and you're scared or you're afraid and you're unsure or mostly just afraid, like, do it afraid, whether it works out or not. You learn from it, right? You don't want to go through life and then later on you're like, man, I wonder what would have happened if I just said yes to this opportunity or yes to this change in my life, even though I could not determine like what the outcome would be. So regardless of what it is, whether it's something, a trigger from your past or something, a traumatic experience. And I'm not saying all traumatic experiences are something that you need to try again, but I'm saying like support, if it's friendships or creating new friendships or relationships, romantic relationships, like whatever that has happened that broke you or took a huge piece of your trust or something, like, do it again or just do it scared. Like, just try it again. So yeah, I decided to move forward, which also I felt like I didn't have any other options but to move forward. I couldn't go back. So I had no choice but to move forward in that. So I'm moving forward and I remember getting there and being at orientation and there were so many people like they knew like why they were there and what they wanted to accomplish and their purpose and their calling and everything in between. And I was just like, I don't know what I'm doing here, y'all. Like I just like I couldn't bring myself here. Like even if I can't make this up. Like I could not think of this on my own. I definitely was not thinking about it. That was the last thing I was thinking about, especially going back to school. So I couldn't make this up. But I said I'm on a journey, and hey, we're all going to find out like what becomes of this. So I wasn't a pastor. I wasn't really serving in ministry when I went to divinity school. And I wasn't even a member at a church when I moved to divinity or moved to the DMV area and enrolled at divinity school. So I say all that to say um, that sometimes something in your life, it will, something or someone may derail your plans or derail in your life. But the God that I know I serve and love and whom, who loves me as well as love you as well is able to turn things around, right? For your good and make all things new. Even broken things, shattered things in your hands, God is able to turn it around and turn it into a beautiful masterpiece. So the culture of divinity school, because had no exposure to divinity school, no one in my family that I know of or we all know of who are here on this side of heaven. That's what the church like to say, this side of heaven. I'm like, if this is this side of heaven, then anyways, in the land of the living, I don't no one has I didn't come from a family of preachers, leaders, deacons, pastors, missionaries, or anything like that. I am the first in my family. I grew up in a church, but I still didn't have that exposure. So going into divinity school, I didn't have this fixed mindset of black and white. And so for me, I was open minded because I didn't have a choice but to be open minded. And the culture of it was surprising. I don't think it wasn't really surprising to me. Well, yeah, it was surprising because there were just some things I witnessed, some things that I had seen that made me question, like, all right, okay, I'm not going to dive into that because that's not what this channel is about. It's not about bashing people or not necessarily bashing them, but just more so, it's not about commentary. It's about us, but more so like meeting people where they are in their middle because we're all in the middle of something. We're all navigating something. We're all experiencing something that is hard. It hurts. It can be painful. I mean, it could just leave you speechless and at times breathless. And sometimes people don't know where to leave it, where to place it, where to bring it. And I know that as a church, I believe the intent is to offer space for people to be. We always like to refer to the church as the hospital, but we find that just like hospitals, majority of hospitals, hey, we need insurance, right? We'll treat you and we're gonna send you that massive bill, but majority of the time there's certain things we're not gonna do because you don't have insurance. So even though the church like to refer to themselves as the church or as the hospital, we find that even some hospitals or some treatment or some care is not available to you because of some restrictions. So some churches is not fully equipped to deal with the trauma of someone's past or someone's life or what they're currently navigating. It may not necessarily be a traumatic experience. Again, there are levels to trauma, just like there are levels to grief. Grief is not just about losing the loss of a loved one. It could be the loss of a job, the loss of a relationship, the loss of a home or stability or freedom. So it comes in different forms and levels and ways to it, but it doesn't necessarily mean that it's a one size fit all kind of thing, or we only have capacity for one form of grief when there are so many forms of grief. And so, thankfully, Divinity School, I completed, just so you know, I completed my Master of Divinity at Howard University School of Divinity. And that was a journey. Okay. It was a journey. And I can't take credit and said I did this all on my own, because that would be a lie. It's by the grace of God and the people that God placed in my life to help me along the way. Because for a while, even at Divinity School, I was so consumed by the trauma that took place prior to Divinity School, that even though I was physically there, I was still mentally and emotionally where the trauma took place. And so, I mean, there were times where I had my syllabus, I didn't know what was happening. And, God sent the faithful few, and one woman in particular who, I mean, just, I call her my guardian angel, and who kept me abreast and kept me going, right? And kept me afloat, right? And so I just, like, God always provides what you need. And I didn't know, I wanted God to provide me what I wanted, but God provided me with what I needed. And I didn't know that I needed this person in my life. And even when she came into my life, I was nervous and I was like, no new friends, leave me alone. I don't want to talk to anybody. Like, I'm just going to leave people alone. And I had that nudge, like, no, be open. Like, I'm doing a new thing, right? Forget the former things. I'm doing a new thing and I need you to trust me. And I was afraid, and I'm so happy that I made myself open and available to receiving that love that I didn't realize that I needed in my life, and love and support. So I also had the opportunity to apply for a dual degree program. So it would have been not only a Master of Divinity, but also a Master in Social Work. And I ended up spending a semester at the School of Social Work. And then a few weeks into the semester at the School of Social Work, my dad passed away. That was major in itself, of course, right? It's death. I feel like everything happened so fast because it was like before he passed, I felt like he would have been discharged and able to go home or just go through rehab and things like that. But then very quickly, it's like he's being transferred to hospice, and I wasn't. Um, Again, everything happened so fast, but he unfortunately passed away. The In that program, because it's a dual degree, but not just only it's a dual degree, but that program is like it's only 2 years. So it's intense, and you have a lot of courses you have to take per semester on top of internship. And during that season of grief, and dealing with navigating loss, and also trying to get on top of my health and having to figure out what's going on with me internally, because there were some things happening, which also later on resulted in me having to have surgery. But you're just dealing with a lot all at once. And I remember asking, like, okay, I need to breathe. I know I have 5 classes that I have to take. I can't, and I have to complete my internship for that semester. Mentally, I don't have the capacity for it. I need a reprieve. There's one course in particular that everyone else seemed okay, but that one professor or TA, whatever she was at the time, was like, I feel like she's doing the most, and I just can't right now. I don't have the capacity to even deal with that. And come to find out, when I'm thinking, like, okay, I'm going to have that conversation with the advisor at the time, that advisor reached out to me. And I thought, oh, okay, because I sent an email out about what was happening. And I thought the advisor was checking in. But the advisor, when I said, okay, when I come back from the funeral, I definitely would like to talk with you. And I met with that person, with them in person. And I walked in thinking that it was a meeting about checking in, like, how are you doing? How are you feeling? Like, how can we support you? Right. It is the School of Social Work. So how can we support you? And it wasn't. I wasn't met with support. I was met with, well, hey, like, without saying people die, but it was just kind of like, this, we all know where this ends. Like, death comes. It's not new to anyone. We're all made aware of it, and it is what it is. She didn't say those words, I mean, specifically, but she did end up asking me questions about my dad. I didn't share too much, but what I shared with her, I guess it was enough for her to say, well, it seems like he was going to die anyway. And I just remember sitting there, like, looking at her, like, because sometimes people say things and not all, like, it doesn't always require a verbal response, but your demeanor and the eye contact that you make, I think the death stare that I gave her, I think it said enough. Like, you about to die too. Like, how could you say something like that? And that for me, and then come to find out that same professor that I already sensed there was going to be something going on, that professor didn't like send an email out of concern. It was more so, oh, she missed my class. Literally, I missed her class the day my dad passed away. And when I had to go out of town for the funeral to attend his funeral, I missed twice. All the other times I showed up. I didn't want to, but I had to show up, right? And at the time I was also graduate assistant. So I was like, wait, I'm at the School of Social Work. I am dealing with social workers. Whether you focus more on the macro level or whatever the case may be, and you want to deal solely with policy, at the end of the day, you are still a social worker and you have gone through all the trainings, whether you ended up in the Capitol, I don't care. You still have to meet people where they are and treat people with dignity and respect, regardless of where you end up as a social worker. And so for me, I realized that I know that my end goal was to become a therapist, a licensed therapist, and to offer faith-based counseling for believers. And I said, I feel so strongly about pursuing this, but I'm not going to pursue this here, no longer at the School of Social Work. If this is something I'm supposed to really continue, then it will come to me. And I said I still withdrew from that class, because I basically was not threatened, but just more so like, no, it's not going to happen. Like, the rules are X, Y, and Z. And then I said, forget you and your rules. And I did what was best for me. So I withdrew from the class, and then I stayed with the class I could manage. And after that, I left the program and I went back to divinity school, because it would be a total of 4 years. So you would spend 1 year divinity school, 2 years at social work, and then the last year you go back to divinity school. So I was only gone for a semester. I went back to divinity school. And I was like, all right, Lord, that whiplash was a lot. So let me just finish this. And if counseling is still something that you have for me, then you'll make it known, make it plain for me. So I completed that Master of Divinity. But thankfully, like I said, like, all things work out for your good, because I was taking social work courses. But when I got back to divinity school, like, thankfully they were able to transfer some of that. So there was particular courses I didn't have to take at divinity school. So it worked out for my good. So yeah, I was led to divinity school. I learned so much. The diversity um, of professors that we have was so, what's the word I'm looking for? It was needed. And because we have so many religions out here in the world, we have so many people come from all walks of life, and to see the diversity of believers or religious of religion gave me the opportunity, afforded me the opportunity to have that exposure because I grew up in a set way of thinking biblically, religiously, and then having that exposure and hearing from the mouths of others or their experience or their beliefs just and there were some things for me as a believer that even though, for example, I don't practice Islam, but there were certain principles and doctrines of when it comes to community, right? And how churches should operate and navigate within the community that I took to heart, and I thought, wow, I wish the church could show up for community the way that some believers or Islamic religion, how they show up for the community. For example, they don't really want to rely on government assistance to help their members or members in the community. And so, like, basically, their version of tithes and offerings is not just to increase the leader's lifestyle, but to have so many resources attainable and available to members of the community, like some of their mosques, they're building dentists or an office, a dentistry office, or primary care or urgent care, helping those who are migrate into the country and help them with resources with housing or whether it's staying with the family or helping them transition into living in the US and just making sure they're able to stand. They don't leave them hanging until they're able to stand on their 2 feet, right? And then pay it forward. And also, like, your tithes and your offerings aren't just for one specific thing, but for the it's an ecosystem. And so I truly appreciated that. But all the professors with their knowledge and education and scholarship and everything that they have accomplished, and they're transferring that to us as well. I wish they didn't transfer some of the structure and the way the whiplash that they received during their time, but other than that, it was an experience to have. I felt like Jasmine in Aladdin. It was a whole new world for me. And even throughout the journey, I still ask God, like, why am I here? Why am I here? Why am I here? Every semester, I was like, why am I here? Even to the point where I had finished, I completed my program, and then I had intentions of joining or participating in like the awards and ceremony and stuff. And I ended up not doing that. And I don't regret it because I'm like, I just need to, I'm done. I'm done. I'm done with all of this. I wash my hands. I'm done. But my Master of Divinity degree is something that no one can take away from me. And I will say that it was also a gift from God to me, right? It's a wonderful gift that was given to me to show me what I'm capable of and that the best was yet to come. So, I gave you an earful. I wanted to kind of give you an overview of who I am as the curator of the space. It's not necessarily about me, but I'm hoping that as you get comfortable and you get an understanding of this channel, that you will share, you will like, you will comment, provide your feedback. If there's something that you want to know, like ask, or if there's something that you want to share, maybe currently navigating or have navigated in your life, and someone may be going through it right now, but they want to hear from you. So, the website link is down below or in the bio. Will also add it in the comment section. I want to hear from you too. Like, this is not solely about me. It's not a lifestyle content. It's unfolding, right? It's unfolding, and I hope that it will bloom, and I know it will eventually bloom into an amazing community of people, believers, non-believers, or people who just lost their faith in humanity, lost their faith in God. But I also want you to know, like, God has not lost God's love for you, and care for you. despite everything. Come back, share, like, um, subscribe, and I truly want to hear from you all. Until next time, stay beloved.